For a long time, I was led to believe that Final Fantasy XI was a bit of the oddball of the franchise. At least that's what I heard from people who played Final Fantasy. As a longtime MMO player, I've always been aware of it as a decently popular MMO for its time. It feels too early in my Final Fantasy series to be talking about this one, but the opportunity to play came up, so I dove in. A heads up before we start, I've lost over half of my footage due to a recording error, and I've had to redo my commentary. You know, these things happen. The gameplay in the background will be the exploration of a couple major cities and zones. For example, you'll see me running around a big zone filled with white sand dunes. This is the infamous Valkurm Dunes. You know, I always thought it was a desert zone for some reason, and not a big beach. If you played Final Fantasy XIV, then you might have heard some folks talk about it. Also, check out all the enemies. They look like they were directly ported over into 14. It's kind of neat. I approach this more as an old MMO player than a Final Fantasy fan. For an old MMO game, it is fairly enjoyable. They have obviously taken away some of the grind, but it is difficult to find old MMOs that are untouched in this way today. I could have found that if I went with private servers, but I wanted to stay with official releases for these games if possible. There's still a lot to do though, and I wish I had more time with the game. There was some charming old school jank to be had. You have to do a ton of menuing, and there are a myriad of confusing and not explained systems. I could never figure out how the camera controls for combat worked either. Upon entering combat, the camera sticks to the target, which is good, but it's stuck in way too close. How quest items are handled didn't feel very consistent. Some quests, the item was special and it didn't take up a bag space, while others did. Some quest items had to be manually traded to an NPC, and others automatically did that when you talked. You control the game more like a turn-based single-player RPG with all the menuing you have to do, but it's an MMO without turns. For example, if I just wanted to cast a short-duration run speed buff on my thief character, I have to open the menu, select abilities, select job abilities, select the skill I want, select myself as the target, and then it casts, and I can go on my way. There's a lot of nested menus. You have to navigate the menus fast in combat, but some things can be set up as like a 2-button macro, like Control 1, Control 2. It was a bit of a bummer that nowadays you pretty much play this game solo, but at least you can use a system called Trust Magic to fill out your party with various NPCs. I was a little bit happy to see some of these characters. I've encountered them while playing Final Fantasy mobile games, like Crail, for example. On top of this, figuring your way through quest requirements was problematic. A lot of the time I had to dig around online to find out why an NPC wouldn't talk to me, and sometimes I would not be able to find the information I needed from one particular source. There was a certain quest, for example, I had read that, the requirement is like getting your reputation with a certain city up. And that was all they said. Okay, so I did that, but then I still couldn't pick up the quests. So I dug around on a different website, and someone offhandedly remarks, oh yeah, you also have to do this other quest on the side. And then that one takes another requirement on top of that. It's like, and that was just something I kept running into. I know I've been a bit negative so far, but I did have a good time despite all this. I had a sense that there was a classic RPG plot brewing up, but I didn't have enough time for it to really play out. There was a main storyline of quests and some cutscenes here and there, which was nice to see for an old MMO. Going back a little bit earlier, the popular MMO EverQuest did not have a structured story. It was more like a D&D setting that you explore and figure out. A little bit later, World of Warcraft, the biggest MMO of all time, had story, but it didn't really have one main structured narrative for quite a while. To be fair, having a story displayed in that way is not necessarily better, just different. I was still a bit surprised by it though. I expected Final Fantasy XI to be more like EverQuest, which in part it was, but it had a light version of a single-player RPG going on as well. Speaking of old MMO ways, there were a few little things that I quite enjoyed that aren't really done today. Little things. Like if you wanted a map of a zone, you had to either look it up, or you could buy a map from the NPC in the game. I know that's an inconvenience, but I kind of like it. It has this feeling of like you're getting supplied for your adventures. There were unmarked stuff in zones too. In one zone, I found a cave area that was its completely own space, but the entrance wasn't listed on maps. That was a fun experience. It made me feel a little bit rewarded for my exploration. If I had never gone down there, I would have never had that experience to begin with. Just because I was curious about it and checked out this one ravine that I saw anything. Another thing is you can play many different jobs, or classes in other games, all on one character. It's really nice. However, though, you can only change your currently selected job in your house, which is in a major city. Oh, and there was changes for weather zones too, in zones that had more than one type of weather in them. There was a zone called the Lethine Plateau, I believe, and the first time I went there, there was a lot of just wind, heavy wind, whipping around, blowing up dust. Like, it wasn't just like, oh, it's a little breezy. It was like serious wind. And it was like that for the whole time I was there. And I left and I came back later. And instead, it was just clear and peaceful. It was just no ambient noise. There's no music in any of the zones. You just kind of felt like you're really far away from anything. And then it just dumped on me. There was a downpour. Oh, geez. It rained real heavy. And then, after a bit of time, as I was doing quests out, it was kind of grinding, really. This rain cleared up, and a large rainbow appeared out in the sky. It just got drawn across the skybox. And I tried to get a good shot of it, but after a short time, it just faded away slowly. Now, I've been in the zone after this, and it's rained and cleared out, and that rainbow has never appeared again. And little moments like that are just kind of neat, I mean, it could be the opposite, where I went through that zone a few times, I never experienced that, but then, hey, a friend tells me about it, or months later, I'm going through there on, like, an alt job I'm leveling up, and I see it, and it's like, oh, wow, I never knew that was there, I never knew this was a thing, that's really cool. I've also heard about a volcano zone, and sometimes the volcano erupts, and sometimes different passageways get cut off by like lava flows and stuff. And that's a really cool thing. Now, each of these things are, I guess, rather small and not necessarily important for a video game. But, when you add them all up, small stuff like this, matters quite a bit. Little extra touches in an MMO world like this kind of helps it be interesting, makes it alive. For me, it shows that some of the people who worked on the game really were caring about what they were doing. They didn't really have to put in all this extra work, but they did. So, there is a ton of the game. There's a ton of the game I didn't get to touch. This is an old game. There's a lot of expansions. You can raise and breed chocobos, which are bird mounts. You can change their colors. You can give them better movement stats. Like I said earlier, you have a player-owned house. You can decorate it. I think there's multiple floors even. And there's even crafting. I completely forgot about it. There's crafting. I didn't get to I didn't touch it at all. And there's still a mountain of story to go through. From the end of the launch of the game to a good half dozen expansions. I mean, I can appreciate it as an MMO guy, but I can see some good bits about it that make it a Final Fantasy game as well. I was already getting parts of a story about giant, sentient magic crystals and old civilizations, warring factions of cities and tribes of beastmen. If you play other games of the franchise, then all of this should kind of ring a few bells. Maybe one day I'll have the time to return to Vana'diel for another adventure. But for those who will be joining me, we will be heading to another land very soon.